Hey, skip the paperwork maze when it comes to setting up an LLC. I'm going to show you in 3 moves how your name will vanish from the LLC record. All right, let's get started. All right, in the next 6 to 8 minutes, you're going to learn how to form a limited liability company that keeps your name off the public records. So there's no shady tricks here. It's just for airtight steps that lawyers use every day to protect their client's identity. It's something we've been using here at Anderson Business Advisors since we started back in '99 to make sure our client's identity is not exposed out there to any potential person wanting to bring a claim against them. Listen, you can't sue what you can't see, and I'm going to show you how to make sure people cannot see you when you set up your structures the right way. All right, so what am I getting at here, and why does this matter? All right, so when it comes to forming a limited liability company, if you're trying to figure out how do I set up this anonymous LLC that I've been hearing about, the first thing is you have to choose the right state. You see, most states require that you disclose certain information on the members or managers of a limited liability company. And if it's your LLC, then of course your name is going to be listed there if you're a member or you plan to be a manager of that LLC when you're filing it. So not only will your name get listed, but your home address will often be requested as well. Now, why is this a concern? I see this all the time in the comments on my videos, wherever I talk about anonymity. There's a few people there that think somehow we are committing fraud when we keep our information private. That is, I don't want my tenants to know that I have this LLC, or maybe I don't want my customers to know that who the owner of this limited liability company might be. Well, here's the thing. If you desire privacy in your business dealings, then these are the types of strategies you need to be setting up. It doesn't relieve you of any liability if you've harmed someone, but it just makes sure that if somebody's looking to bring a frivolous action, they're probably going to think twice because they can't find a who's the deep pocket defendant. And that's really what this is designed to do when you create anonymity. So in order to set up an anonymity structure or set up an LLC that your name's not going to appear on it, you first have to choose a state that does not require you to list either the member or the manager of an LLC when you're registering to set up that company. Now, there's a couple of states out there that we like to use here at Anderson. The first is Wyoming. Wyoming followed by Delaware. Now, both of these states operate in the same manner. That is, when you go to set them up, all you need to provide is the name of the entity, the registered agent, and the business address. And so the first piece of information you have to have when you're going to set up an anonymous LLC is you have to set it up in the right state. Now, the second thing you need to do to set up an anonymous LLC is use a commercial registered agent. Now, I've received a lot of comments below or on my videos where people are asking, hey, can Anderson be my registered agent? Absolutely, we can. At Anderson, we have registered agent services in all 50 states. And that's one key aspect in keeping our clients' information completely private, because every LLC that you set up must have a registered agent. And if you plan to be your own registered agent, well, then you're going to be disclosing your name and, again, your home address on that entity. So you have to make sure that that does not happen, and that's why you're going to use a commercial registered agent. Okay, so the third step to creating and finalizing your anonymous LLC is to use a virtual business address. Again, so this is the mistake, again, that we see time and time when we look at entities and we're trying to determine who actually owns this. A lot of times I'll see it in the business address. I'll just see what they put down, and then I'll skip trace it. I'll find that address is associated with someone, presumably the member or manager of that LLC. When you're using a virtual business address, you're eliminating that problem altogether because that virtual business address will not tie back to you. Now, virtual business addresses can be obtained online. We here at Anderson do provide this when we set up LLCs for our clients to maintain that anonymity, and we do it in all 50 states. So again, when you're setting it up, nothing reports back to you. So to create an anonymous LLC with privacy, you have to find the right state that does not collect this type of information, members or managers, on the owners. Now, that's just part of this, right? When you're setting up an LLC, after you've set it up, you have to obtain an EIN number. That's important as well. Now, when you're obtaining your EIN, There's no anonymity there. You have to disclose to the IRS that you are the responsible party. I can't tell you how many times I've had a conversation with someone who will reach out to me and want to use a nominee, someone other than themselves, to obtain their EIN for their business. Listen, you're putting yourself at risk and your friend if you're using their information to obtain that EIN. That information that's held with the IRS is not publicly available, unless, as I always joke, the Chinese hack it and they release it on the internet. So after you get that set up, then you have to open up a bank account for your LLC. Now, a lot of people wonder if you're opening up a bank account for an anonymous LLC where your name doesn't appear, won't that be a problem for the bank, especially if it's an out-of-state LLC and you're using a virtual business address? Okay, so here's the thing I want you to consider. When you're opening up your bank account for your anonymous LLC, correct, if the bank looks, they will not see your information on the Secretary of State's website. That is why you need the following information to open up your account. Number one, you're going to need an operating agreement. That is a key step that a lot of people miss in forming LLCs because they think all they need to do is register them online and now they have their LLC and they're ready to go. No, you need to have an operating agreement because that's going to spell out for you how your business is run, what type of business it can actually engage in, and more importantly, what type of protections you have in the event of a lawsuit. But it's also going to be used, as I stated, to get that bank account open, because in the operating agreement, it will state that you're the member and the manager, if that's a type of entity you set up, of that limited liability company. The second piece of information you're going to need in opening a bank account is an EIN letter. Now, when you obtain your EIN, the IRS will actually send you a letter to the name of the LLC explaining, hey, you've created this limited liability company, here's your EIN. So when you have this EIN letter, that is proof that you are the actual owner of that company as far as a bank is concerned. Now, the last thing I would leave you with here when opening up a bank account is make sure if you're setting up an out-of-state LLC, say it's in Wyoming because you want that anonymity, that you provide your in-state bank where you're opening the account with a local address. Now, this throws a lot of people off when I tell them to provide a local address because they'll say, well, that just blows my anonymity. It does not blow your anonymity because that information is held private with the bank. It will appear on your bank statements. It does not have to appear on your checks. You can print your checks any way you'd like. If you want to have your virtual business address on the check, tell them to print your checks with the virtual business address. They'll do it. And if they won't, go to one of those check services where you can order checks online and you can have it printed that way. Just give them the account number and the routing number and the name, and away you go, and you'll get your checks printed. So that's not a problem, and it allows you then to proceed forward and get that account open right away. And then the last thing about maintaining that entity, of course, is make sure you're up to date with your annual filings that are required to maintain that, as well as paying attention to any communications you receive from your registered agent. Because what can happen when people create limited liability companies, they forget about the details. They forget that they have to be renewed, or maybe you're in the military and you have to PCS somewhere and you forget, hey, I set up an LLC and everything's going to my old address, and then that LLC falls out of compliance and it will be administratively dissolved. So you want to make sure that you're staying on top of your annual filings to maintain your limited liability company. So that's how you create an anonymous LLC. But the thing is, when you set up your anonymous LLC, realizing that it can actually do more, because when you're going to run into those states that do not permit you to create an anonymous limited liability company, like Washington State, where my office is located, then you got to get creative. And that's where we get into the entity stacking that I talk about in a lot of my videos. It's taking advantage of that one anonymous LLC and then using it to create a whole structure of anonymous limited liability companies in multiple states, regardless of those states asking for member and manager information. What you're going to want to do is make sure that you take your anonymous LLC, like I used Wyoming, but it could be Delaware, it could be another state that does not collect any information on you. So you're down here as the member of this LLC and you're the manager of the LLC as well. Oh, some people say they can't read my writing, so let me make this really simple. When you're the manager of this LLC, then when I want to create my Washington limited liability company up here, where Washington wants to know everything about everyone when they're creating a business, what we're going to do with this Washington LLC is we're going to set this up as a member managed. LLC. Okay, member managed limited liability company. That is how we're going to file it. And that the filing form will ask for the information on the member of this Washington LLC. Well, if this is a Wyoming LLC down here, and this name of this one is No One LLC, that's what we set up, then when you file your Washington LLC and they say, well, who's the member? He just says no one's the member. No One LLC is the member. Well, what's their address? Well, that's when you're going to use that virtual business address. Like what we have provided for all of our clients is a virtual business address when we create their LLCs. So these types of structures, you can have 30 limited liability companies all pointing to that one Wyoming LLC, and your information will be completely private because nothing's going to point back to you with this type of setup.
Privacy is pennies on the dollar compared to unmasking costs.
Okay, people always ask me, is this legal? It is 100% legal to set up your entity this way. It's the same statutes that the Fortune 500 companies use when they want to create a structure with privacy. You can use them as well. Delaware is the premier state that many of those Fortune 500 companies use when they're creating limited liability companies. Since we're smaller, I tend to gravitate more towards Wyoming because it's less expensive to set up my entities there. Now, how about financing? Can you finance when you're using an anonymous LLC? Well, get this. Yes, you can, because the lender sees you on the bank docs. They see you on the EIN notice, that letter that I talked about. So they know it's your limited liability company. So if you're trying to build financing, yes, you can use an anonymous structure to do it. I've done it myself for my own real estate investing, built it around anonymity and obtained financing. And then another question comes up a lot is, should you have a separate LLC per property with this type of structure? Absolutely, you're going to have one LLC per property, and all of those LLCs will be held by that same anonymous limited liability company. Stack all your structures that way, and you'll have the maximum asset protection. So one lawsuit stays contained to that one entity. Listen, download my anonymous LLC checklist below. There's a link in the show notes. Share this with other investors who do not know about how to set up an anonymous structure and they've been wondering about it. Make sure you get the word out there, and be sure to subscribe to my channel for weekly privacy and protection tactics that will come directly to you as the videos are released. And if you need help setting up one of these structures, well, that's what we do here at Anderson. We create anonymous structures for our clients to protect their assets. And if you'd like to set up a free strategy session, look down in the show notes. There's another link down there where you can set up a free 45-minute strategy session with one of my advisors, and we will help you design your plan. So you'll have a blueprint. You'll know going forwards how you should set up your structure. Take advantage of it. It's completely free. And if you like the video, be sure to hit the like button. Take care.